Hello, in this video we are going to make a cladogram. In the last video we did the character matrix, and you might notice that in the last scene I said, oh, and here's your finished character matrix, but it was not this one. So your character matrix will have X's filled out as you go down, and now we're going to use that to build a cladogram. So let's go ahead and get started on this, see if I can do this in 5 minutes. So let's go back to your book for a second here. If you have your book, feel free to open it to page 220. And this is where we read about cladograms before. And I'm hoping this will help you answer this question here also. So what is a cladogram? So we're going to read part of this. A cladogram is a diagram based on patterns of shared traits or inherited characteristics that shows the evolutionary relationships between groups of organisms. So all the organisms in this group is a clade, and they share a relationship. A clade is a group of species that shares a common ancestor. Through evolution, certain traits change in some species of clade but stay the same in others. So in this cladogram, it's showing the relationship among tetrapods, or four-limbed animals. So all of these have four-limbed animals of some type, and we're looking at the evolutionary relationship based on that characteristic. So we have amphibians, which all have 4 limbs, and then there's an embryo protected by an amniotic fluid. So amphibians do not have that, but everything after amphibians does. That's our mammals, our tortoises, our lizards, our crocodiles, our birds. So an amniotic fluid is an embryo protected by amniotic fluid, is derived character shared by all organisms in the amniotic clade. All right, so a node is this part here, and a node in a cladogram is the intersection of 2 branches. This node represents the most recent common ancestor. All right, so here we have the common ancestor for the mammals, and the mammals went along, and then a skull opening behind the eye developed. Mammals do not have that, and so everything beyond this would. And the turtles have that. And the lizards and snakes, they not only have a skull opening behind the eye, but they also have openings in the side of the skull. And then crocodiles, they have openings in front of the skull and in the jaw. And then finally birds, feathers, and toothless beaks. Right? So that's how a cladogram works, and you're going to make one. So we're going to have a line going down, showing sort of an evolutionary line. Then we're going to have lines coming off and nodes showing differences for those clades. Okay, so I have roughly 2 minutes to draw or get you started on this cladogram. So first thing we're going to do is draw our evolutionary line. So we have our evolutionary line, and I'm not going to draw it as straight as you probably. So in your class notebook, you would click on the draw function, and you would click the color you'd want, and you would draw your line. So here's our evolutionary line. All right, we have our character matrix. So we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have to have 5 clades. So we're going to start off, and there's our first one, and then second, and third, and fourth, and fifth. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and name these. So how do I type on this? So I go up to my draw function, click on that, and I click on this text box symbol over here. I go off the page, which is over here, and I make a text box and I pull it in, and then I can type on it. So worm, I can pull it over the right spot, boom, and I can also make this shorter. And then for the next one, I would do the same thing. Click another text box, off the page, come over, pull it in, or if I'm going to need later, I will need to put some down here, so I can pull them down here also. So here is our 5 clades all named out, and so then all we have to do is put in our characteristics. So our first characteristic is cells. So all of these animals or all these organisms have cells. So cells goes here, showing that each of these has cells. So then we get to the worm. And the worm does not have legs. The legs developed after the worm. So we have our mark. And the worms do not have legs, so they have cells, and they do not have legs, and legs would develop right here. So legs developed. And then we have our spiders, and our spiders have cells, and they have legs, but they do not have antennae. And so we'd have our mark here, showing that spiders have cells and legs, but they did not have antennae, but ants and flies and dragonflies did. And we would put antennae there. So that's how you start this, and you can go ahead and finish this up for the other segments on a cladogram. If you have any further questions, please see your science teacher.